Well, hey guys, welcome to the studio. So about 2 weeks ago, we picked up a used Pearl Export 5-piece drum set, and we tried to get it to work here in the studio, and we had to sink a few bucks into it. With a budget in mind, how were we able to get the best possible sound for recording here in the studio? This is the end result. So we're going to isolate the tracks. I'm going to show you what we did to the kit, and we tried to save as much money as we could along the way. I think the sound came out pretty solid, and you'll be shocked at some of the choices of where we spent the money. Let's get to it. And this is what we started with. This was a sparkly burgundy Pearl Export kit. I'm guessing probably about 20 years old. The cymbals seemed newer. They were Sabian B8X, and they worked, but we did replace them with some used Zildjian cymbals that we sourced locally as part of a barter. We could have worked with these cymbals. I just didn't feel that they had the sound that I was looking for. So older Zildjian cymbals, and if you shop hard, you can find them without spending a ton of money. So here it is with the new cymbals in place. You'll also see that we did add new drum heads on the toms. These are Evans Onyx. Now, I went with Evans Onyx because they're hydraulic. It's like an oil-filled two skins with a film of oil between them, and they really capture a real body of the drum, a real thud. They don't have such a strong attack, that click when the stick hits the drum head. Single ply heads would have been better for that, but I'm looking for warmth for this. Evans Onyx, and not a crazy amount of money. The set for the three toms, I have a 10, a 12, and a 16, was under $60 for the set, so not so bad. And for the snare drum, we did a replacement. We used Evans HD Dry, nice crack to it, some body to it, and we also mic'd it up. So I did end up moving the placement of the microphones around a little bit ultimately, but on the top side, we used an Audix i5. These mics go for about $99, and I also tested it against a Pile, which is a $20 mic, $22 I think right now on Amazon, and we'll talk more about those mics in a second, and it was nearly indistinguishable, but I do have this Audix around, and I feel the construction is a little bit heavier on the Audix, so if it does get hit by a stick, it will survive. The Pile mics, I'm not so sure. And on the bottom side of the snare drum, you can see down here, this is one of the Piles that we're talking about. So Audix i5 up top, Pile 57 clone on the bottom. Here's where we saved a lot of money, guys. On the two mounted toms and the floor tom, Pile. This is the PDM-IC 78, one of the best kept secrets in recording studios on Amazon. But it comes with a cable that's XLR, weirdly down to a 1/4 inch. It's a 15-foot cable. I keep these cables around for things like guitar reamping down the road. They're actually pretty handy. But these mics sound great. If you've watched this channel for a while, you see we use these things on guitar cabinets, and we've done shootouts with experts listening to these things, and a lot of guys actually prefer these things over a regular SM57. Saved a lot of money doing this. On the kick drum, we did not want to skimp on this microphone. I actually did try a Pile, and it might have been a coincidence, but at that moment, the mic just got really and it might have just been all that sound pressure. The mic was essentially broken and dead after I tried it in a kick. I'm not sure it's because of the kick. It might have just been a coincidence, but I don't recommend one of those cheap mics in there. We also tried an Audix D6, which we liked, but that's like a $200 microphone. We also tried the Pile kick drum mic that comes with the kit of Pile mics. You can buy a kit from Pile. It's not a lot of money, with a kick drum mic, couple overheads, and a few tom mics for a great price. They shot that kit out on our friend channel Black Bridge Sound. You should go check that out. They got excellent results using the kit. We did try that mic as well. We also tried the one we ended up using. This is a Shure PGA 52. This is real middle of the road stuff. They're closer to $100. The Audix is up around $200. And I think the entire pile kit with everything is under $200. We could have gone with the pile kit, except I think we had access to some other mics already here in the studio. So I didn't need a full kit of everything. I already had good overhead mics. The Behringer C2 is what we went with for overhead, and they're $49 for a pair. These are small diaphragm condenser mics. We run them in an XY pattern above the kit, just above head level, to capture the cymbals and stuff. $49 a pair. And we already had those here in the studio. So that's why I didn't buy a pile kit, but I could have. Back to this PGA 52, we see a very pronounced curve here down around 70 hertz. 70 hertz is where you're really going to capture a lot of thump from the microphone. It's also reduced around 400 hertz, and that's where we hear a lot of mud in a kick drum microphone. And then it's got a little bit of snap that comes in around 4 or 5K, and that's the beater. So this thing is already designed to capture exactly what I'm looking for in a kick drum. And for our final microphone that we ran, this mic right here, this is a Rode NT1. This is not a cheap mic. And we ran this just as a room mic because it's in the room and I already own it. However, room mics don't necessarily have to be the best mic that you've ever heard on the planet. There's a lot of guys that literally just take an SM58 and throw it on the floor 10 feet away from the kit. They don't even bother putting these things on stands. What this mic is supposed to do is not necessarily capture the quality and the brilliance and everything from the kit. You've got mics on the kit that you can do this with. It's just to capture 10 feet away or 5 feet away or 15 feet away, if your room's big enough, what the room is doing. And we happen to use a pretty decent mic to do this, but we didn't need to. All right, let's get to the fun part. How did we track it? How did we mix it? And so let me show you how this is laid out in Ableton. We have hi-hat mics, tom 1, tom 2, and the floor tom over here. Snare bottom, kick, snare top, and the overheads are represented as a stereo pair. So you'll see there's stereo audio already. It's on one track though, plus the room mic. Let's give it a quick listen with some bass guitar and 2 guitar tracks just to see how it sits in the mix, because that's what we really care about. Okay, let me isolate the drums for you. Solo. Let's take a listen to what some of these individual mics are capturing, and let's talk about how we managed this. Okay, here's the hi-hats soloed, and I think I forgot to mention, we did order a AKG P170, which is a lot of engineers' favorites for the hi-hat microphone. They're about $99. If you look on Amazon, they got a special that we got on this thing. For an additional $5, it came with a boom stand and a cable, probably, I don't know, $50, $60 worth of extra junk with it for $105. So shop this one hard. And again, you probably want a decent mic on your hi-hats. This is what it captured with the full kit playing. Now, microphone placement is good. I actually like it straight down. I like it sort of near the bell a little bit, and I like a distance of about 1.5 inches on that. Some people do angled, some people go more towards the rim, some people grab it from the bottom. Great tip that we got from group member Carl Gainage over in our Facebook group, Recording Tips, which you should come join. All right, let's check out some of the tom hits. Okay, we're on the toms. Remember, cheap pile microphones, $22 microphones, and this is what we captured here. One more time. Okay, the snare drum. Up top, Audix i5. On the bottom, one of those cheap pile 57 clones. Here's the top and bottom mixed, and then I'll isolate them for you. Here's just the top mic. A lot more punch and a lot more warmth, but listen to what the snare bottom is capturing. There's all the air. There's those strainers. There's that clack. Here they are combined. Onto the kick drum. This is the Shure PGA 52 that we talked about. Good thump to it. Nice solid in the room here. There's a lot of information down around 40 hertz with this that it really kind of shakes your clothing on you a little bit in the mix, and you can do whatever you want with it, but it's there if you want it. Onto the overheads. These are Behringer C2. These are little tiny mics. Small diaphragm condensers. They come in matched pairs for about $49, and they're going to capture the cymbals and the air above the kit. Let's give them a listen. And you'll hear some of the tom hits, some of the transients for the tom hits. You're hearing almost no kick at all. The snare, you definitely hear, that's a very loud thing in the room, so the overhead will be hearing it. But is it capturing the cymbals? That's really its main job. And finally, the room microphone, we did use the Rode NT1. It's a good mic. Doesn't have to be. Probably $300-$400 mic, I would guess. This is aimed at the kit. It's about 5 feet away, and it's in front of the drum set, and it's up about eye level. And this is what it captured. Let's get to mixing it. I'm not going to walk you through every single track on this. I'm just going to show it to you based on the snare top. One of the most important things that I do on any track ever is I set up a high-pass filter. High-pass filter is going to take all those low, thumpy kick drums and remove that from what you're hearing from the other microphones. Like on the hi-hat microphone, for example, I don't want to hear the kick drum going boom, boom, boom. I want that isolated on the kick drum track. So snare top seems like a fair one to show you this with. I'm using a Console 1 SSL. Let's take a look at it. And what you're looking at is this portion of the screen right here, specifically this slope right here. And I do have the snare drum isolated right now. So this is what it sounds like. Listen to what happens when I start bringing this up. This is my filter. Nothing but treble. And as I bring it down, and you can see right on here, it's trying to give you some mid-range here. And that's nice. But as I start bringing it lower and lower, I'm getting a little bit of the thumpiness from that kick into the channel, and I don't want it. So by dialing this in and listening and doing this on each individual track that I have recorded, for the hi-hats, I might have this set so it's only really super high highs. My overheads might look something like this, like more kind of mid-range and highs. My toms will probably contain some more of the lower content, and my kick drum is going to be pretty much shifted all the way to the left or very close to it. Okay, let's talk about this room mic and how to blend it in. Here it is without the room mic on. Okay, I'm going to switch it on. It's hard to hear that difference. Let me solo it for you. Okay, let me do the thing again where I actually start with it quiet, and this time rather than just switch it on, I'm going to blend it in and I'm going to turn it up far too loud. Normal kit. Good kick, good snare, good cymbals. All right, here comes the room mic. Far too loud. Let me remove it. Gone. Very dry. Here it comes again. That's about where I run it. And here's too much of it. It's not bad. Your ears might tell you, hey, go ahead and overuse this. And that's fine. It's your mix. All right, I'd go right about here with it. Let me kill it. Gone. Close mic'd. Kind of normal, and back on. It's subtle. I kind of hear it as a little bit more space to it, as opposed to it being like very tight and snappy, that type of thing. And I just want to mention one kind of crazy thing about the mix as you're hearing it right now. There is no EQ on anything. Nothing is EQ'd. I know you could argue and say, oh, you used a high pass filter on the hi-hats. That's true. And you're right. I do that as part of the filter process. You could argue and say that's EQ. But beyond that, all my EQ curves are completely flat right now. Now, there was a few other advanced things that I did. There's a gate on the kick drum, also done by the Console 1 SSL channel, and it's mild. There's a little bit of gate on the snare as well, and I think that's it for the gating. Oh, the toms. The toms have a little bit more of a gate on them. Overall, I put all of these tracks into a drum bus, and I did the OTT Trick. That's over the top, which is a great hyper compressor that just absolutely it's over the top. It just way compresses too much stuff. And I just blended that in maybe 10 or 15%. I really should let you hear what that one's doing because it's so cool. And you just got to remember to be super cautious with this, but this is super powerful and a great way to dial in the sound of your kit. Do this last. Get the sound of your kit balanced and working properly. But here's an OTT. The stock preset, I don't think I've messed with it, except I changed the low compression rate of the high frequencies from the bottom up. However, it's basically the stock preset. You've been hearing it dialed in at 9%. I'm barely using it. Let me dial this out. Okay, here's the stock kit, and as I blend it in, I'm going to take it way too far. You'll hear what it's doing. Nothing. Okay, going to bring it up to about 10%. 20. 30. Now, let me shut it off so you can hear what 30% is really doing. On. On. Listen especially to the cymbals and the kick. All right, I'm going to bring it up to 50%. Off. chromatic. Off. On. And just for fun, let me just turn it all the way up to 100%. Gird your loins. I'm going to turn it down slightly because I know it will get louder. All right, on. Oh, it's very harsh. And off. That's why blending it, I think, is my favorite way to go. The OTT, it is literally over the top. And this is a multi-band compressor. It's available in Ableton. There are free versions of multi-band compressors that do essentially the same type of thing. All right, let me get back to the blending. We're going to use our ears. Remember, I had it around 9%, but for the sake of video, to make it easy to hear, I'm going to blend it up to about 30 as we go. Okay, so here it is off. 20. 30. And let me kill it. Off. On. Okay, now, depending on how you're watching this video on quality phones or quality monitors, or maybe you're just watching it on your phone, I know you heard the difference when it was at 100%. Over my monitors that I run in here, it's very apparent anything beyond 10%. I hear it as too much. But this has to do with the style that you're putting together. 20% may work better for you. 30% may work better for you. And there's free ways to do it. It's one of my favorite tricks. And just to recap, I didn't want to spend any money to do this, but the money that I did have to spend was new heads on the toms and the snare. The kick head actually was fairly new, and it was an Aquarian, kind of a cool one. I liked it. Next up, microphones. We already had a couple microphones here in the studio that we could use, but I did purchase 3 extra piles for the toms. We already had the Behringer XY for the top, the C2s. Again, cheap mics. We didn't go with an expensive kick drum mic. We went with sort of a middle-of-the-road Shure PGA 52. The snare, I could have used pile top and bottom, and honestly, you would not have heard a difference, but I like the metal frame on the Audix i5 in case it gets hit. It's about a $99 microphone. For recording, everything that you heard went through a Behringer XR18 interface, which has 18 inputs on it. So this was a total of 9 inputs when I count the Rode NT1 as the room mic that was also in. So a little more than half of my inputs into the XR18 for this. Also a great place if you know that you're going to high pass filter like the hi-hats, you can set up the XR18 to do some of that workload for you so that the track is already high pass filtered, and then you can kind of tweak it from that point. But I wouldn't overdo it. Very powerful interface in that regard. And for processing, again, high pass filters on anything that you don't want totally thumping around. I used no EQ on any of this. I did use a little bit of gating, and that's a whole separate video, how to set up gates on drums. I know there's some great content out there. I've personally seen it, so I'm not going to get into it. But the OTT Trick. And if you want to know more about the OTT Trick, I'll link a video below showing this is not just a wonderful way to manage a drum sound. We use this on guitars. You can use it on voice and on bass guitar. Oh my God. That's a cool video. I'll link it below. Thanks for hanging out, guys. And remember, we got a lot of work to do. Let's get to it.